And welcome back to the show, everyone. My name is Brian Elam. I will be your host on this episode of the Be Successful series here on Get Your Entrepreneurship Together. And today, I already know this is going to be a great conversation. It's going to be a great conversation because I've got Steve Gamlin here. Now, Steve has had a amazing career and journey so far. Everything from being an MC to a stand-up comedian to a keynote speaker to a coach who specializes in visualization. So you just know that we're going to have some fun here today. And I can't wait to get into it. So, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to it.
My pleasure, Brian. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, first and foremost, I watched a video of yours. This has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, but I believe a mutual connection that we have. You quoted Def Leppard in a video.
Yes.
Now, Def Leppard was my favorite band when I was a
Perfect.
young man coming up and listening to music and desiring to get behind a drum kit. So, how did you discover them and why are they so important that you quote them?
Yeah. Boy, the 80s were my teen years. I was born in 68, so I hit 12 in 1980. And I wasn't as much aware of their first couple albums, but when Pyromania hit in 1983, I was absolutely blown away. I loved the sound. I loved the energy. I loved the lyrics because I thought they were a lot deeper band than what came later in the 80s, which was a lot of fluff and garbage.
Yeah.
But I've just been such a fan of theirs. And even when other types of music came around and got more popular, these guys have still been doing stadiums the whole time. These guys they stay true to who they are. Other than one album, they never really tried to change their sound. But I just love that they're still out there. And they've also taken great care of themselves in the longevity of their career. And it goes back to how they did what they did when they did it, and they just stayed true to themselves. And I really appreciate that. So the other morning, Friday morning, I get up and 5:30 in the morning during my workout, I just said, oh, I feel like doing a video today. And I quoted Def Leppard, let's get rocked.
Absolutely love it. As soon as I heard that, I was like, me and this guy are going to get along. I can just know it.
Yeah. And in the 80s, I had a lot more hair too. So that was the cool thing. I had the rocker look going all the way through the 80s and then into my radio career in the 90s as well. Had good rock star hair. And now a lot of it's still there, but not like it was.
Yeah, well, I feel that, man. I used to have hair down to my shoulders when I was a much younger man, and now it's all high and tight because yeah, that was a phase, and it's done now. And I will not show anybody the pictures.
There's a picture of me in 2000, summer of 2001, on stage. This is back at the end of my radio career, on stage in front of 15,000 people at a rock concert that we put on in the Lakes region of New Hampshire. And I was still married, my first marriage at the time. And my ex-wife took this picture of me and I said, people go, Steve, what were you like back in the day? And I go, this. They're like, wow. Like, long hair, smiling, tan, and all that, and happy, and on stage in front of 15,000 people. And then I blew it all to dust and started all over. And so that hair is gone. I don't speak in front of 15,000 people anymore, but I can, have a great time with a few hundred to 1,000.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, so I wanted to touch on because you mentioned a couple things, even just in the talking about Def Leppard and the longevity of the band, like taking care of yourself. So
Mm.
as an entrepreneur, as somebody in business, taking care of yourself is so vitally important because so often you're wearing many different hats, you're doing so many things. Burnout can be and is a real thing. So let's just dive in a little bit on this topic of taking care of yourself. Like what have you experienced when it comes to that level of activity and burnout? And what have you done to start taking better care of yourself after you've learned those lessons?
Yeah, I burnt myself to a crisp from 92 to '02 was my 10 years in the radio industry. And I worked about 15 years worth of hours. I was doing 50 to 60 hours a week at the radio station and DJing weddings virtually every weekend for those 10 years. So I was not eating good food. I was not getting enough sleep. I was stressed out to the max. It's kind of like having a machine that you don't maintain and it runs really good for a while. Then all of a sudden it starts to shimmy a little. Then it starts to bang and clang. And one day you wake up and you go, where's that smoke coming from?
Hmm.
And that was me at the end of those 10 years. I was absolutely fried. My first marriage was falling apart due to lack of communication because I was just turning inward. Everything was work, 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 work. And someday it'll pay off. People say that, just grind and grind and grind. I'm living proof that you can't just do that, because you'll wake up someday and all those other parts of your life are going to be either gone or damaged so irreparably that you may have these massive life changes like I did. Blew up my radio career, went through a divorce, and was tens of thousands of dollars in debt at age 35 because I was working so many hours, I wasn't keeping track of where all the money was going and the interest that was piling up on some credit cards. And I took out a business line of credit for $30,000 to build a recording studio. And then I quit my career. And it took me years to pay that off.
Yeah.
But
I
it's very important to be aware when you start to smell, even before you smell the smoke, look around and just make sure that I'm not saying you got to have work-life balance. I'm just saying you got to be able to take care of yourself and the people closest to you.
Yeah, and that's a conversation that is definitely worth noting and worth having because, right now, going through the social media feeds, I see more often than not, especially on Instagram. I think Instagram is the worst for this, but you get all of these entrepreneurship accounts that are all about, hustle and grind all the time and, always be working, always be closing, always this and that. And that might work for some people in some situations, but even at that, there's still a cap. You're still going to max out your level to hustle and grind. And then, like you say, you're going to start smelling that smoke. So, how going into the topic of work life balance from there, I've heard a couple, well, more than a couple opinions on this. There's the opinion that there is no work life balance, there's only life. Then there's the opinion that there is a work life balance and you need to manage the two correctly. Where do
Mhm.
you stand on that conversation?
For about the past 20 years, I've been working off of a pretty familiar tool in the personal development world. It's a life wheel, and the one I work with has 8 spokes, and it's your physical health, your emotional well-being. Imagine that, setting goals for the emotions you want to feel, your closest relationships, the core values that guide all of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. It's kind of like your internal rule book, your faith and spirituality, if that's an important part of your life, because kind of the same thing, but the rules come from a different direction. Your connection to the world in a real way. And this took a beating a couple of years ago with COVID. People were unable to be connected in person like before. So you had a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of addiction came out of that. People feeling very disconnected and isolated. Then you've got your work and your money. So all 8 of these areas are operating in your life 24/7, whether or not you're paying attention to them. So wouldn't it be a good idea to remember that they all exist? And going back to the hustle and grind thing, some people are like, I'm going to work 100 hours a week for a year. I'm going to make $1 million. And I've asked people, often in their 20s, early 30s, who say that. I go, you married? They go, yeah. I go, yeah, you won't be. By the end of this year, I predict that there will be some serious cracks in your marriage. I said, I'm not saying you got to balance between, and I go back to, who was the guy, Tony Tsai, the former CEO of Zappos. He said, it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration. And I prefer that model. Just understanding, and I'm not saying everything's got to get equal time, but if you take care of just one, you can impact all the others. For example, your physical health. If you get enough sleep, if you exercise regularly, if you choose to eat good foods, if you minimize the bad things and don't overindulge, you can have more energy when you wake up in the morning and more focus. When you do that, you can work more effectively. When you work more effectively, you can earn more money more efficiently. When you have more money, you can buy back a little time and freedom, spend some quality time in your closest relationships, have date nights, have special times together, go on a vacation. And if you do it all with good core values and ethics and according to your faith, you're going to result in better emotions and better connection with people. That's all 8 right there, just by taking care of your physical health and being aware that you got to take care of this machine. Otherwise, it will break down. Trust me, I'm 56 years old. This gray hair is not necessarily genetic. I burnt myself out in my 20s and into my mid 30s, and had a couple of, about 2 years in the absolute dust, in the ashes. before I got my Phoenix to rise up again into what I've been doing now for the past 20 years.
Now, when you were in that stage, when you were at that lowest point, what what did you do or what did you discover that started to lead you out of that to where you are now?
If self-deprecation was an Olympic event, I would win the gold because I was brutal. According to my journals, referring to myself as Hurricane Dumbass Category 5, that one came up a lot. Idiot, loser, moron, all those things. I mean, I really punished myself for a couple of years. But looking back now, I just had to get all that out of the way. And even if you're at the lowest point of your life, look, it's done. Stop beating yourself up. And this was a lesson that actually took me another 10 years after that to learn. Person in your mirror, you got to be friends with that person and you got to at least respect that person and you got to forgive that person. And so I wrote, I journaled a lot. I read a lot and I wrote a lot and I thought a lot. And the moment that changed it all, here's the thing. Don't just isolate yourself because you will drive yourself crazy and you may not see these opportunities out there to get to that next thing. Literally, this is how it happened. On a very hot and humid Friday afternoon in August of 2003, I had $3 in my pocket and I drove past this mini golf place that had a driving range. And I figured, all right, I just want to get some frustrations out. I'm a horrible golfer. So I went to the farthest tee box on the property, like up against the netting, so the trucks at the business next door wouldn't get dented. And I just whacked the crap out of a bucket of golf balls. Well, a thunderstorm came through, like major wind, major rain, major thunder, major lightning. And I'm standing under these big metal power line towers. And everybody but me ran from the storm. And I was just so low. I held the club up and I just looked up. It was my Lieutenant Dan moment in the crow's nest of the boat in the hurricane in Forrest Gump. Held the club. I go, go ahead. I dare you.
No,
And
you
I hit.
didn't.
Yes, I did. I was not mad at God because somebody said one time you should never get mad at God. I wasn't mad at God. I was mad at myself. And I just said, go
Wow.
ahead. Take your best shot. And nothing happened. So I hit my bucket. And then as I went to leave, I'm like, I'm still in a bad mood. There were 2 full buckets there from 2 guys who ran from the storm and never came back. So I hit their buckets. And when I finished, I brought all the buckets and the golf club back to where I picked them up and went to my car and I opened the door and the rain stopped and the sun came out and I just started laughing. I'm thinking, that is well played. And the next day, I was talking with a brand new life coach. I was his first client. And he said, how was your week? And I told him that story as funny as I could make it, really self-deprecating, but funny. And when he stopped laughing, which is something, if you're a coach listening to this, don't laugh at your clients when they're doing stupid things. He said, I got a question. Have you ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian? I think you'd be really good at it. What he didn't know is when I was 11 years old, I wanted to be a radio DJ, a stand-up comedian, an author of my own books, and a teacher of people, but not in a classroom. He didn't know that. And when he asked that question, all of a sudden, I said, yeah, but I have no idea how to pursue either one. In the junk mail pile on his desk was a brochure to a local community college that had a comedy class starting 2 weeks later. I was there. And a week after that, my first Toastmasters meeting. And within a year, I was doing both.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. The whew, I don't have any words for that. Holding that club up in the air and just daring the universe or whatever you want to say to take your best shot.
Take your
Like
best shot. Yeah. I still
like
have the club. It's actually right outside the recording studio because somebody recently said, is that story true? And the club came up into the camera shot. And I go, yep, this is the club.
oh,
Hasn't hit a golf ball since.
oh,
But,
hasn't
in moments of desperation, you say and do things like that. Like, I don't say it to be like a Hollywood moment. It was just me hating on myself at the time for everything I'd done to my life and just saying, well, here's a way to get out. I won't do it to myself. So go ahead while you're here, take your best shot.
so that coach that you met, he had the message waiting for you. He had it all along. It was meant to happen. My question is, how did you find that person?
I was just starting in BNI at the time, Business Networking International, locally to promote my DJ business because I had to grow it so I could pay my bills. And I met this woman who was talking about her husband who was in a band. And she said, "Did I hear you say that you have a recording studio?" "Yeah, because I just built it." And she goes, "Well, his band is looking for a place to record a demo. Could they come up and maybe you could trade some coaching time?" And I said, "Sure." And that's literally how I became his first client. He had just gotten his coaching certificate and I was his guinea pig.
All right. And that's what it takes sometimes, is just to
Yeah.
have that open-mindedness, the
Yeah.
willingness to do something for free when you don't think you're going to get anything out of it. And
Yeah.
now look what happened.
Yeah.
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 Ooh. Well, well, guys, if you had any doubts that from the lowest point of your life comes the greatest triumphs, here's a great example of why that is not true. It is absolutely the case that those lows will be the yin and yang and be your highs as well. That's
And then
just
get paid to
incredible.
talk about your lows. That's my favorite part about it is I never tell a story. And this is something I got from a gentleman named James Malinchak, who's big in the speaking world, helping speakers build their businesses. So I always try to give the credit where it's due. One of his boot camp recordings that I bought, somebody in his audience said, "Yeah, James, I never tell stories. I relive them." And they ran a microphone over and they said, "Kevin, say that again, nice and slow." So that's the great thing about what I get to do. I get to relive stuff to share the lessons with people. It's not just rattling off like it's nothing. I feel that. And I feel where I was at the time. And it's a place I never hope to be at again in my own head, as far as being self-deprecating and putting myself down and not giving myself a chance, really, because I kept just putting myself down, saying, "Oh, I wrecked everything. There's no coming back from this." You got to be real careful when you talk like that because you're going to miss something pretty amazing. And, that's kind of when Coach Dan, coach at the time, said, "Hey, there's this new DVD out called The Secret. You should check it out. I think you would like it." And that's where I learned about visualization. A little tiny bit of The Secret was on visualization. And I took that and ran with it and made a career out of it. So I would have missed it if the golf thing had never happened. I would have missed it if I wasn't just open and honest with where I was at. And I would have missed it if I was still putting myself down all the time.
Yeah. Yep. You've got, like I said earlier, you got to be open to those opportunities. And those lowest moments, they have that instance, they have that power to open you because you've tried everything else, you've done
Yep.
everything else. Now, okay, I'm open. What
Yep.
haven't I done that's actually gonna work?
Yeah.
And then the universe steps in and takes over.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
wanted to touch on, you mentioned visualization. I know you're very big on that. Like you said, you've made your entire career out of that now. Um, how important is visualization for someone who is starting a business or even working within of their business and at that 3 to 5 year mark?
Yep. To me, it's everything because if you think about a GPS, it knows where you are now, or you may have to just type in where you are right now, but you got to give it a destination. Otherwise, you're going to walk in circles. You're going to walk backwards. You're going to keep crossing paths. You're going to go just anywhere. And this goes back to all 8 areas of your life. And I start off with people in 1 year. So what would you want your business to look like in 1 year? What do you want your physical health to look like in a year? How can you create a better version of yourself in a year? How can you feel more happy emotions in a year? How can you make your relationship even better a year from now? And all of these things. You got to know where you are right now, better or worse. I mean, don't just sit there and bash yourself. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect. I get it. But you got to be open and honest about where you are right now, where you're starting, and then just think of where you want to go. And another question I ask people is to get all your senses involved. Because when I say, "Well, what do you want a year from now?" I get what I call the vision board starter kit: Lamborghini, yacht, private jet, mansion, helicopter, big honking gold watch, and a bank vault full of gold bars and pallets of cash. And I go, "Oh, that's a beautiful little letter to Santa Claus. That's delightful. I love that. Who were you in this, and where's the rest of your life in this? Because there's nothing wrong with any of those things. Like, some people think I bash that. I'm not bashing it at all. But if you think that's the end all be all of what success is, you've been watching way too many motivational speaker videos who probably rented all those things for their video anyway.
You got that right.
Oh, yeah, I know. There's actually a recording studio in California that is the inside of a Learjet.
I was just getting ready to mention that. People go out,
I love it.
they rent it by the 15 minutes out there
Oh,
in
yeah.
California. This so these influencers can take pictures in a
Yep.
fake jet.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And I'm in a 12 by 13 room that I built 5 years ago in our basement. This is my recording studio. People think it's like a $100,000 room. Man, this is just, it's very well built. I mean, it's my second one, so I knew what to do. But so many people think it's got to be this whole overblown thing. And I said, no. I said, a year from now, what do I want to be doing? I go, a year, 3 months from now. That was the time I gave myself. I want to be recording my new podcast. I want to be shooting videos. I want to be what turned out to be doing virtual events because of COVID. I wanted to be doing all this stuff. So I spent maybe $2,500 and built this entire room like that, because my dad, who had passed away just prior to that, gave me all the carpentry skills and taught me to believe in myself and said, you know what to do. You've been working with me since you were 7. So you got to believe in yourself enough that you know the steps to make it happen. And you also have to know what you want it to look like. That's a big thing. And another quick question I ask people is, what do your goals look like? And they start to tell me, I go, great. What do they feel like? What do they sound like? What do they smell like? What do they taste like? And that's when I get the puppy head tilt. Go, okay. What I want you to do is envision that 1 year mark. What's going on around you? What are you smelling? Like, if you're celebrating a year in business, what restaurant are you going to? What's your favorite meal? What's your favorite whatever? What candle do you want to have burning in your office? Like, I've got one that smells like cherry Tootsie Pops, and I got one that smells like Little Debbie oatmeal cream cakes that my sister got me for Christmas because that was our favorite snack when we were kids.
That was my favorite snack too. I didn't know they made a
Oh,
candle that smells like that.
it kind of does. And I won't burn it, but every once in a while I like to cover off and I go, and I got the biggest smile on my face. And then I start working. See, that's how we got to show up every day. We got to believe that best version of ourselves is out there. But then every single day, we got to do something to get closer to it. And all the senses being involved. That's a great way to make it real. Jack Canfield got that phrase from him. Act as if, make it real in advance. Start to feel who that person's got to be. And every day you show up, A, believing in yourself enough, but B, taking just one step toward one of your goals in just one area of your life. And you build that momentum, you build your confidence, you hardwire better habits, you create success.
Hmm. So with this act as if type of mentality, this methodology, I'm curious if actually stepping out of your head and into the real life version of it would help. Like, for example, if you had somebody that wants a new BMW, like I do,
Mhm.
do you find it beneficial for them to actually go to a dealership and test drive that car so they know and get that real world experience what it's like?
Yeah, absolutely. And if they don't let you drive it, if they don't think you're serious enough, that's okay. Just say, hey, you know what? Can I sit in it for a moment and put on your favorite pair of shades, flash your biggest smile, look out the side window with your hands on the wheel, feeling the wheel. I'm sure it's leather, feeling the wheel, and have somebody take that picture. And I want you to put that picture as the wallpaper on your phone for a while. I want you to research how much it's going to cost to buy or lease that BMW. If they let you start it up, great. Have somebody record behind the car what the exhaust sounds like when you start it up. Make that one of the ringtones on your phone. Want you to know what it sounds like from the interior. What does that interior smell like? Because new car smell is amazing. And
I
new
love the
BMW
smell.
smell has got to be phenomenal. Attach all of your senses to it. And if you get to drive it, awesome. Have somebody sit in the seat behind you and just film over your shoulder of your hands on the wheel, looking out the windshield, the view you have, hearing the sound of the engine from the interior of the car, and watch that video over and over and over and close your eyes and relive that. What you're doing is you are exposing your future self to the amazement that you can feel. All you got to do now is do the work to get there. If you think of it like an old wooden roller coaster, I love the old roller coasters. You start off at parking lot level, you look up to the top, you can't start halfway up and you can't skip any steps. You have literally got to sit there and go click, 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 click. You've got to hit every single step. Every once in a while, you look over your shoulder and realize how far you've come and that you're getting closer to the top. In any one of your goals, if you break it down to that many small pieces, it takes some of the overwhelm out. It takes some of the fear out, because as you go, you grow and you're going to get a little better, more confident. We're more than halfway there. Oh my gosh. You get up to the top and your eyes get big as you're that close. And you go over the top and there's nothing you could do to stop that ride after. Once you've succeeded, you just celebrate the heck out of it. Scream your brains out, have tears coming out of your eyes. Doesn't matter. Throw up if you want, if it was that, if it's still that exciting to you. But when you get to the end and realize, I did it, I've got that Beamer in my driveway now. First thing I suggest for people to do, get back in line, set your next level goal. And if you see somebody near you who looks as scared as you were before you started that ride, I want you to reach out and do a little coaching of your own. Hey, are you new at this? Is this a big goal you're setting right now? What's at the top of that hill for you? Oh, this. Tell you what, why don't you sit next to me? I want to tell you a story on the way up. Because you can help make sure that somebody else doesn't get off halfway and walk back down and quit on themselves. We all get to be coaches in that way. Too many people
Yes.
call themselves coaches now. I think we all get to be coaches. Whether or not you build it as a business, we all have the opportunity to inspire and to cheer on and educate and help out other people. And that's one of the things that I encourage all my clients to do. If you see somebody in your life who maybe can't afford a coach, but take what we've learned together and go inspire them, go cheer them on. It's a good feeling when you get to do that. And that. I actually rode that roller coaster at the lowest point in my life. It was June of 2003. It was 2 months prior to the golfing. And I promised a friend I was going to go to the Chamber of Commerce event at this amusement park. That was also the night my first wife and I decided officially we're going to divorce. So I still went to the park, not in a good mood. And I just said, I want to go scream my brains out on the roller coaster. And I got in at the bottom, second row of the front car, and I took a picture with my old flip phone. And that picture is still one of the most requested stories whenever I get invited to speak on stage. It was that picture at the lowest point of my life with a crappy old flip phone on a 100-year-old roller coaster that I swear every spring I drive by and I go, wow, it made it.
One more
Another
year.
another winter. And then you see the old, every year I'd be like, I'm going to be on the first ride. And then you see like the old man with the metal detector trying to find the bolts that fell out in the winter. I'm going, you know what? Next weekend's going to go fast too. And those bolts will be back in the ride. So yeah, you know,
Yeah. There's a level of wisdom too that comes with age, right?
yeah. Yeah. I look up and I go, you let me slide on the golf and thunderstorm thing. I'm not riding this ride if all the bolts aren't in it. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to, give me all you got anymore. I always tell people, I say, look, I make God laugh so much. That's part of why I'm still here.
There
I
you
just make them
go.
laugh.
And I want to just jump back to the point that you made about we all have the ability to be a coach. And this is something that I try to put out on social media every time I see the opportunity, when someone starts kind of getting down on themselves about not really being where they want to be or making a difference. I always just try to make that point of, you never know who's watching, especially on social media. You never know who's watching, reading your content, but not commenting or not liking. But it's making an impact. It's making that impression. So even though you don't have that feedback yet, that doesn't mean it's not there. And it doesn't mean you should stop. I think that's just so important to be able to support someone on that ride up, like you were saying.
Yeah. I believe we should just put our best stuff out every day. And I try to be as authentic and genuine as possible. If I'm in a funk or a rut, I mean, I've actually created a character. It's basically Dr. Funkenrut is what I call it. If I'm not feeling it that day, I just go, oh man, I'm feeling like Dr. Funkenrut. I got to at least put something hopeful out there. And I try to make it, an honest representation of where I am. But to go back to what you said about we never know who's watching, I was in a video challenge about, well, it was 2012. A buddy of mine, he goes, Steve, we got to step up the game here. A bunch of us are doing a YouTube challenge. He goes, I'll throw a little question to you every day. You just go create a video, quick one, answering that question, put it on YouTube all 30 days. Day one, I had done like 24 takes, and I was my outtakes were like swearing and cursing myself and saying, I'd go, you freaking moron. Like after each one, I wish I had kept all these outtakes. They were
Oh,
hysterical.
oh my God.
And
it's the same thing for me when I first started
oh
making
yeah,
videos. Oh, it was so terrible. And
yeah, yeah.
I wish I could find the one that I'm thinking of. The lighting is all yellow in my room and I'm stumbling over my words, pausing
Yep.
like atrociously long. And
Oh yeah.
at the end of it, it was like, oh my God, I have got to write this down. There is just way too
Oh
much to
yeah.
remember.
Oh yeah. I mean, my friend texted me. He goes, "Hey brother, it's 8 o'clock at night. No video yet." And I'm sitting here giving the finger
Oh.
to the phone. And finally I just said, F it. And I mean, I didn't even have a decent mic. I didn't have a camera with an external mic. I had a Sony Handycam with the side thing flips out. It was like 6 feet away. So it's all boomy and echoey. And
Yep.
and of course the lighting was bad. I had one fluorescent light above my head. It was a 2 light fixture and one was burned out. So I'm like, hey, it's Steve, and I'm here to motivate you. And I'm just going away at it. And I hit end and I put it up on YouTube and I texted him, I go, there, and I'm flipping off the phone again. About 3 or 4 days later, I get an email from someone I'd never met. It was just from a woman who said, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed your video the other day for that 30-day challenge. How did you know I needed to hear that day? I went, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Universe, God, okay, gotcha. All right, this is not about me. It's not about, and that was right about the time I created a meme that said, I was holding up a piece of firewood because motivational firewood is my trademark brand. I own the trademark on that phrase. And it said, hair not perfect, face not perfect, smile not perfect, body not perfect, kicking butt anyway. And that was when I stopped saying, I've got to be the best. I've got to be perfect. All I have to be is the best version and be the most honest and authentic version. And the rest of those 30 days, a lot of them were one take. They weren't perfect, but I didn't beat myself up over it. And I just said, okay, if that bad of a video could actually help somebody with her day, what am I doing? I should just answer openly, authentically, and just be genuine. And
Yeah.
that made life so much easier. Nothing about me is perfect, trust me. But I'll put my authenticity up against anybody else's on any stage. And I welcome the challenge because all it means is they're going to be their most authentic version too. So I don't say it to look down at anybody else, but to say, hey, if we're all authentic, all these people who came to see us or listen to us can benefit because they're not worried about the rah, 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 buy my stuff. The
Right.
people who are a little predatory with NLP and the other, approaches out there. Some people are a little slimy in their approaches in this industry, and that's part of why I'm actually here, is to be the other end of the spectrum on that. I want to wreck the curve for some of the people who are out there being less than authentic.
Yep. I completely respect that. Absolutely. And you're right. There are a lot of people that have those underhanded practices that their only motivation is to sell you the process that worked for them, but might not work for you, but they don't care because it's just another sale.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I want to go back to this thought of being authentic and creating content here just real quick.
Mhm.
Um, because I think this is a very relevant point. There's people out there that need to hear what you have to say,
Yes.
and they do not care what your background looks like. They don't care that your camera's not HD. What they care about is they are listening to a real person who had a real experience, and they're looking for that solution. They're looking for that connection. And I think that that's really what you're speaking to when you're talking about being authentic up on stage. It gives your audience that chance to really connect and focus in on why we're all there.
Yeah. To me, authenticity is really simple because so many people out there use it as a buzzword. Authentic to me just means you're the same person on the inside as you are on the outside. And that's it. I don't need to go on a stage and pretend to be anybody else or pretend to be somebody who sold a million copies of anything. I'm just me. And what I talk about is very woo-woo, and people go, "Oh, I don't know, this visualization." I go, "No, no, 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 no. I'm going to explain it in a very authentic way. I'm just going to tell you how to roll up your sleeves and do the work. I am blue collar woo, dude." Like that's my whole approach because I can't speak to any other way other than to say, if you do this, this result could happen because it's what happened for me. And if you continue to do this and take these steps, here are the results you can start to see. Here's how you're going to start to feel about yourself if you genuinely go out there every day and just do your best to plug into the positivity and the best parts of you and acknowledge them. And yeah, you might take shots at yourself now and then. Maybe you've made mistakes up till now. There's nobody who hasn't. But just let the best parts of you shine. And as you grow with that, the other stuff just falls away. But be genuinely authentic about who you are. If you're having a great day, great. If you're having a challenging day, just pick out the one or two things and authentically and genuinely share those today. And there are days, somebody said, "Steve, I could tell you're not having a great day." I'm like, "Really?" They said, "Well, your message was positive, but a couple of the words you chose, you okay today?" Like, "Yeah, I was struggling a little bit today, but I always want to put the best version out there." But even then, if I'm struggling, I will say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this today." I don't want to be one of those people who just post pictures of the Lamborghini in the driveway and says everything's great when it's not, because it just doesn't feel genuine to me.
Yeah, and that actually answers the next question I was going to ask you is do you think that it's important for people to let others know that they are having a bad day or they are struggling?
Yeah.
And yes, yes,
Yeah,
it is.
absolutely. But not on social media necessarily.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, I think there's a line, like
yeah,
you don't want to be, not that you're not allowed to. Let's make this point clear. You
right.
absolutely are allowed to break down and be a crying, slobbering mess over whatever has happened. You
Hmm.
are allowed to do that and work through it. But just you don't need to post it on Instagram or Facebook to make you seem real. You know,
Right,
that's not what people need. People
right.
don't need to see that in order to think you're real, or need to see that to make them feel sorry for you so you get a lot of engagement. There's probably
Right.
people out there that do that too.
Hmm.
But yeah, just have a little bit of authenticity when you're struggling. Just say, hey, it's not a great day, but I chose to focus on these 2 points when I make this message to you. Even though it's not a great day for me, I still want to put something positive out there that you can take away from this.
Yeah,
That I think is really good.
yeah. And another layer to sharing it like that on social media, it's not just you losing credibility, it's the nastiness of some of the people out there in the world who don't necessarily have your best interest in mind. All of a sudden, you're a target. All of a sudden, they're attacking you for it. So when you are having those bad days, reach out to the one or two people that have got your back, who you've built a good relationship with. See, social media is such a wide net, and you got to be really careful. Boy, there are some opportunistic predators out there, even just emotional predators who will beat you down. If you're already down, boy, these people can come in and really do a number on you and
Yeah,
and try to ruin your professional reputation as well by saying, "Well, if this person's out there crying on Instagram, why would you do business with them?" And all of a sudden, that's a whole other thing you
right.
got to be careful of. And in this TikTok world with everything going on too, and all the shorts and all the, oh my gosh, I see what some people are doing out there. I'm like, it's dangerous what you're doing to your
It
own
is.
reputation, to your self-esteem, to your self-worth, to your reputation. Just be real careful because this stuff is forever now. You can never take it back. So be very careful about who you are the most authentic and vulnerable with. Choose carefully.
Yeah. Great message, great points. Thank you for saying that. And I want to just real quick, because we are running out of time, and I knew this conversation was just going to fly by. So I want to make sure that we get to the vision board
Mhm.
I don't remember if it's a course that you've come out with, or it's like a particular, like maybe a lead magnet or what it is, but
Mhm.
you've got this new vision board project that you've just come out with. And I want to make sure we tell people about that because I know it can help a lot of people.
Yeah, it's called Vision Board Mastery. And what it is, actually, the funny part is people said, Steve, how did you create this? I said, I went back and read my journals in the early 2000s of where I was and all the little steps it took. Once I had heard about visualization for 98 seconds inside of The Secret from some guy named John Assaraf, I just started digging and applying, and I didn't buy anyone else's program or read anybody else's books on it because I wanted to create this homegrown version that just worked for me.
Mm.
And so I just started taking notes. Try, fail, try, fail, try, kind of succeed. Okay. Try again. Win. Ooh, all right. And then slowly put back together all 8 areas of my life, including finding the love of my life, my wife Tina. We've been together almost 17 years. All these opportunities. And I said, okay, I know where I am now. I started to really envision where I wanted my life to be, not just better, but evaluate where it was. Scale of 1 to 10, or I'm a visual, creative guy, so I would write a lot. Tap into the emotions. What do I want my life to look like, feel like, sound like, smell like, taste like, and started to do all these things. And as I put things back together, people said, Steve, can you teach me how to do that? I'm like, I guess. And I spent about 2 years and almost 300 hours in my recording studio to come up with 74 minutes and 52 seconds of really good audio, 10 modules, an hour and a quarter, all added together from where you are now to where you want to be. To create a board, you don't gather pictures in my program until module 7. You do all this internal work for 6 modules. And then you gather the pictures, you put them together in the story you want your life to tell, and then the steps beyond that and the actions. So it's a full on hold your hand all the way through from where you are now to where you want to be and beyond, and explain every single step and why it's important. So you're not just going to a vision board party with wine, cheese, cracker, scissors, glitter, glue sticks, magazines, and poster boards, getting half loaded, slapping pictures on a board and think you're manifesting your best life because you're planting seeds in very shallow soil that way. It's something, but it's not what I went through and survived and thrived from to create this. I mean, my current board, I've got every board I've created since 2005. I look back at the early ones and I just shake my head and laugh. I'm going, oh my gosh, that was just a thought. I had the words generous giving on one of my boards because I wanted to be more kind or do more kind acts.
Mhm.
12 years ago, my family and I, as a team, decided to do consistent acts of kindness. And 3 years ago, that became a 501c3 called Beach Bum Philanthropy. And now it's a big part of our lives on a weekly basis. So you plant those seeds, you do the work, you remember why you want to do it, and you just stay open to things. And all of a sudden, some mind-blowing things can and will happen if you let them, if you stay open, if you keep your antenna up and understand. I wanted to do a TEDx talk now for a couple of years, so I put it on my current vision board. And I applied for a couple through their websites, but never heard back. And I said it to a friend of mine the other day who's done one. He goes, oh, yeah, no, don't do that. I've got a database of all the organizers. Do you want me to just share that with you?
uh
And this week we're sending out communications to the organizers of TEDx talks. And I don't know how many I could be on by the end of the year.
That's incredible. That
It's crazy.
I love. This is why I love podcasts and connecting with people and having these conversations, because there always is just such power and beauty in what is shared. And with this conversation, I feel like the overarching theme is openness, remaining open to the possibilities and the connections with other people. I really feel like that's the crux of this conversation. And it's so important to understand that and remain open, because your network is your net worth. The more people that you have that are you are connected to, you add value to, they can add that value right back to you. Just like That's incredible. Those TEDx organizers, like, hey, would you just like a list? I'll just give it to you. Like, well, I'd be dumb to say no. So, yes, please,
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah. And the whole reason we had that conversation was this friend of mine says, I'm working on a new keynote and I know you infuse a lot of humor. Could we get on a Zoom call and you can just give me a couple of ideas? And I said, of course. And because I've been on his podcast so many times, like 9 times he's interviewed me. And I said, oh my gosh, I'd love to give back that value. And during that conversation, I mentioned the TEDx thing. And he goes, oh, I've got this database that I built up. Would you like it? And now he is actually proactively going to be sending all these messages on my behalf to these organizers because he's already got little hints of relationships with some of them. So he is taking it upon himself to walk me through the door as a potential speaker for them.
Yep. And that just reminds me of how you and I came to be here at this point.
Yeah.
I interviewed Jackson Callum, and he interviewed you too, and then said, hey, you got to go on Brian's show.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him to do that, but that's just the kind of person that he is because we have a relationship because I interviewed him for my show, and that's just how it works.
Yeah.
That's just how it works, folks. You go
Yeah.
forward, remain open, no expectations, and you connect with Steve and you get his work in this whole 8 areas of life and building out your own vision. So, to that point, where can people find you? Where can they go discover this vision board course that you've put together? Because this is great stuff.
Thank you. Nice and easy. If you go to visionboardspecial.com, that goes right to my site. And you had mentioned, if there's a little value there as well. There's a video called Visualize in 5 for anybody that might be new to visualization. And it walks you through its 8-minute video. So you can watch it in between snooze buttons in the morning if you want to get your day started. It's the 5 basic steps to even understand how visualization works. And a lot of people have watched that and gone, I didn't even know that. And then when they get to the full-on program, their minds are blown and in the most beautiful way. I had a client email me last night about a speaking event that I coached her for that she did on Friday. And she's like, oh my God, I know why you love doing this so much. She goes, I had people even asking me about my socks. I created this alter ego of her called the orangutan. Her name's Lori, and she says her animal is an orangutan. So I created a cartoon of an orangutan wearing a pink bow tie and a little hat. And she wound up putting it on these custom socks that she wears whenever she speaks on stage.
Oh, that's
She
so
goes,
funny.
I
That's
know
so
how much
good.
you love this. She goes, oh my God, everyone loves the orangutan.
Of course they do because it's so different. It's so unique. Again,
Yeah.
talking about authenticity.
Yeah. And a
Yeah.
year ago, she had never spoken on stage a year ago, has ADHD like you read about. She's written her own book. She voiced the audio version of her book, and she just got paid the other night for the first time ever. They handed her a check she didn't even know was coming.
Oh, that's a
And she
beautiful
said,
moment.
I got paid. I go, congratulations, you're now a professional speaker. Look at you. A year ago, she wouldn't have dared. And what she has done with it, with everything we've talked about, has been amazing.
So
She's
good.
making it happen. She knew all of this. We talked about all of this in advance, and she's making it happen. And I sit here, I laugh, I cry, I jump up and down with her here when we're on Zoom calls coaching. It's the best. This is why I love to do what I do the way I do it. And I don't have to do this. I get to do this. And that's an important thing about that.
Yep. Another important distinction, another little nugget of value right there at the end. Steve, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. And I want to give you the floor for the last 30 seconds, minute. Anything that you want to add or anything we want to talk about that we didn't touch on,
Mhm.
the floor is yours.
The greatest lesson I ever got was actually never told to me. It was lived by one of my grandfathers. And for anybody who might be struggling right now, or anybody might be second guessing where they are and where they're going, leave at least one situation a day better than you find it. And start that first thing in the morning. I got this from Mel Robbins. I smile and high five myself in the mirror first thing every morning, 5:05 a.m. Monday through Friday when I'm starting my workout. And I just high five myself. Start there. And then any path you cross, any conversation you're in today, anybody you see, think of a way. Ask yourself, how can I leave this situation better than I find it? Maybe you smile at somebody. Maybe you hold the door open. Maybe you rescue a shopping cart from somebody who just put the last bag in their car. And you say, excuse me, would you like me to return that? Maybe you know somebody who's starting their own business and you just say, what do you need today? What can I do to help you out? Do you need to have a little conversation? Just think of one way to leave one situation per day better than you find it. And you want to give yourself a great gift from that at night before you go to bed. Have a little notebook or a gratitude journal and just write down your favorite moment from that day. That's the best gift you can give to your future self, because you may wake up not feeling 100%. I want you to read the gratitude you wrote for yesterday. Start there and then reapply all of those things again and again. It's the best game you'll ever play in this lifetime.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys. Links are going to be below. Go check out the course. Go check out his site. Get connected with Steve, because as you can see, he is a great human being with a passion for what he does to help people level up their lives. So again, thank you so much for coming on, man. I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. This was an absolute blast. Seriously. So thank you for putting your trust in Jackson recommending me. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, share the show, like the show, blast it out to your network with anybody and everybody that needs to see this. Because again, you never know who needs to see it. You never know who's watching. So share this show out, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Spotify, and peace. We will see you in the next one.